Welcome to Dry January. I know some of you think Dry January is silly. There's no reason to do that. But for me, it was the 5th year that I did it. And it's also about discipline for me. In fact, I blogged about it last year and again this year. And this year's article was called The Quiet Power of Dry January. And one of the big focus points of Dry January for me was discipline. I talked about discipline leading to consistency, which turn into habits, which leads to success. But I listened to a podcast today with James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, a book that I absolutely love. And same with the podcast. It was wonderful. It was on Mel Robbins. And he suggested that it was less about discipline and more about developing systems and not just trying harder. He focuses a lot on identity in his book and on the podcast and becoming the person that you want to be. For me, Dry January embodies the person who can say no. And another reason that it's easy for me to have the discipline to incorporate Dry January into my year is that it's time bound. It's just 31 days. If I wanted to have a glass of wine on February 1, I could, or I could continue it for another 28 days, stay on it for March for another 30 days. But for me, it's very time bound. I used to be an avid outdoor cyclist. I'd get on my road bike, and if there was a steep hill that I had to climb, I would, rather than focusing on the crest, the top of the hill that I had to get to, I would focus on the rock that was in front of me, or the shadow, or the branch, or the leaf, something that was literally one pedal stroke in front of me. And before I knew it, each of those tiny little fractional incremental goals led to the top of that hill. And there may have been multiple hills in a ride, and I did that every time. When I thought it was hard, I would just give myself tiny little goals. And I do that in life too. Tiny little fractional incremental goals will ultimately lead me to my success. Now, for me, I always thought it was discipline. But honestly, I agree with James Clear that it starts with these incremental habits. In other words, just show up. And before long, you're going to run that marathon, or you're going to become a non-drinker. Either way, start with just showing up. Thanks and have a great day.